My proposal for the Monotype brief is to celebrate the creative women in Oxford who organize meetups. The Monotype brief by d&ad asks us to use type to celebrate a community, and it encourages us to choose a community that we are part of. The function of the brief is described in its summary: use type to celebrate a community. Humans are social animals, and as such, we need connection and a sense of belonging. The brief uses words like heritage, uniqueness, communication, and of course communities to describe its function. Monotype wants to give voice or get their audience to know new communities they might not be aware of. My proposal for the Monotype brief is to celebrate the creative women in Oxford who organize meetups. Before arriving at this idea, I have followed a process called design thinking methodology. The first thing I've done is put all my ideas into paper in a brainstorm. First, all my research about Monotype, and then everything that came to mind. I tried to focus on the communities that I belong to, and I got to the conclusion that probably trying to celebrate an online community was going to be very broad in terms of an idea, so I decided to focus on the local communities instead. On the second part of the process, I tried to define the problem, which is a bit hard because the brief doesn't really specify a problem. It only asks to celebrate a community. And because I understand that the main audience of monotypes are designers, I concluded that the problem or the purpose behind this brief was to get more designers to use typography as the main element of their designs, and to use our designs and our creativity to talk about other people and the good they are doing. While this is not a problem as such, I have used this as a reference for everything I have created. So I have worked on different ideation techniques, most of them suggested by Ellen Lapton, and the one that has helped me better is one called forced connections. So what I've done is just writing down all the words that define the communities I belong to, and then mixing them to find maybe a new community that doesn't exist, or a more complex community that I'm part of. With this, I came up with a connection of creative women and Oxford, and the first thing that came to mind was creative women who actually do something in Oxford. So that's when the idea of women who organize meetups came. For my initial idea, I have created a concept board based around typography, color, and especially layers. Once I had the idea, I started prototyping with different exercises from the module. Some of them are the historical visuals, the layouts, and the typographic content. And all this exploration has really helped me to get out of my head a bit, because I already had an initial idea of what I wanted to do, because I wanted to do something very colorful with layers, big type. And by working on these layouts, on these photo manipulations, I have come across different ideas that could work for this project. Something very important for me is that the whole proposal have a very consistent aesthetics. Since the whole brief revolves around typography, I have decided that I wanted to use different typefaces for each of the women that I'm going to be celebrating. One more illustrative font for Julianne, who is a children's book illustrator. A very clear and rounded typeface for Mariana, who is the organizer of the UX meetup. And finally, a bigger and bolder typeface for Mawani, who is the organizer of the design meetup. Although I have used different fonts for each of the women, I have tried to maintain the same layouts and the same font sizes in all of them. After a while working with the posters, I decided to move on to the digital element that the brief also requests. The digital element that I have decided to do are Instagram posts, or rather an Instagram feed, so a 3x3 grid. So first of all, I have worked on the grids themselves, and then I have tried to figure out if the posts work in isolation. So in order to understand this better, I have created a survey to ask people for their opinion, and I have shared with them the different posts individually and then the final feed. And I have gotten very positive responses in all of them, and this has helped me to develop the final design for the feed. I have decided to stick to 3 main colors, which are white, a middle gray, and a dark brown. And that's because it helps organizing the grid of Instagram better. And it also follows the more minimal and typographic style of Monotype's current feed. Once the Instagram feed was ready, I decided to go back to the posters to make sure that everything was consistent. And the last thing I've done is to create an email because the brief asks for an additional touch point and see what they're up to, what they're celebrating, and who they are talking about. I think this has been a very interesting brief to work on, and I believe the results have been very good. I haven't really gone very far from the current Monotype style or their current branding because I did want to create something that fits within their style. But I think by working on a project that celebrates a local community, I have gone outside my comfort zone, which is usually working on things that are happening online. I think the main function of these responses is to celebrate a community, but also to raise brand awareness around Monotype. And by sharing these posts on my own social media, I think I can contribute with that. I hope you like my proposal and thank you so much for watching. Bye!